All right, team, now we're going to talk about Jeremy's behavior support plan. So I'm passing that out. It's a separate piece of paper, but it's part of Jeremy's IEP. And, we just talked about his accommodations. And really all we've done here is take the ones about behavior support and put them in their own special documents. So everything is really crystal clear for all the adults about how to support Jeremy's behavior. So I'd like to just go over the target behaviors on the front and make sure those are still current. Those are like the biggest priorities for everybody. And then go through the strategies that everybody's actually using to support Jeremy. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great.
Okay, so what we have listed here, and again, this isn't everything that could happen. It's just kind of the two main behaviors that I think are the most frequent and the most disruptive for him. So we wanted to call those out. One is non-compliance. So he just, he struggles to follow directions, not all the time, but in certain circumstances, struggles to follow directions. And one area of concern is when that escalates into that other behavior. We describe it here as outbursts, but it's that raised voice, inappropriate language, physical aggression, kind of that cluster of things when he gets really agitated.
Yeah.
Would you say, team, that those are still current, like those are still the biggest priorities for Jeremy? I know we've made progress for sure. This has been a good year.
Yeah, I would say, in class, he's definitely following directions more frequently. And those emotional outbursts are happening less frequently than they were in the beginning of the year. But I do still see him struggle to follow directions, especially when compared to the other students in the class, particularly during things he doesn't like to do, like math, which, that's not his favorite subject. And so that's been the areas where, he's more likely not to follow directions and choose other activities that are sometimes disruptive. I have been, we had that one big emotional outburst last week, 2 weeks ago.
It was last week.
Yeah. And so again, we're supporting him through that, but really want to prevent that from happening because it's hard for him to come back to class after that.
Yeah. I mean, and it takes time because he's learning new patterns. And we do notice that these behaviors tend to spring up when there's an academic task that's really difficult and new and frustrating for him. So really like the why behind that behavior for the most part, I think is getting out or avoiding in the first place, like that tough stuff. So yeah, I mean, we try and give him that pressure release. So I mean, I think what replaces that for Jeremy sometimes is like, hey, I need a break. And we'd much rather have Jeremy ask for a break appropriately than get a break another way with one of those outbursts. And he's making progress that way. I think long term, we want to see him in the seat more, with that struggle and being able to tolerate that struggle, because we all know how important that is, right? Yeah. So if it's okay, then let's talk about what we're doing to support Jeremy. So on that next page, the first part here, these are prevention strategies. So it's things like Miss Woodward and other folks are doing just ahead of time to try and avoid the non-compliance, avoid the outbursts. So kind of just like we did with accommodations, I think it'd be nice if we just kind of all look through this and see, hey, do we want to add anything? Are we doing anything? Do we want to change stuff? Does that sound good? Okay. One thing, Miss Woodward, as we're reading through it, that I'm thinking of is the momentum strategy you've been trying.
Yeah. It's been really great. We've just been trying it. We've been trying it just for a little bit of time. So we put it in here just to, as a new proposal to talk through, the reminders we've been using. I have a schedule up for him. He knows when math is coming. We do some reminders. Hey, after recess, we're going to remember it's math, those types of things, but they're not enough. So one of the things that we've been trying right when he gets into class is giving him some math related tasks that are easier, involve the calculator because he really likes that. So then once he does that for a little bit, it seems like he feels some success and is more likely to take risks on some of the skills that are more hard for him. So it's been
like
great.
If you hand him those tough problems cold, it's like a wall.
No, thank you.
Up, right?
No, thank you. So again, just really trying to build him up early, and it doesn't even take that much time. So he's not losing a lot of time with the assignments he's supposed to be doing. with the instruction. Everyone's kind of doing a little bit of a warm up.
Yeah.
His is just a little more.
Curious, does he look different or?
Nope. Everyone has like warm up tasks and they're more independent. So it's really matched to his ability level, but no one else really can see that. Okay. So again, that's just helping him just agree to do it.
Great.
Feel good about adding that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add that one. Okay. Any other just changes for that section?
I don't think so.
Feeling good, team? Okay. Then I'd like to move us to reinforcement. You see it's at the bottom of the page. So when we see Jeremy being successful, like when he's taking those tough problems and working on them, we want to make sure we shine a light on that, really boost it up because we want to see more of that. So I know a big part of what Miss Woodward does is that affirmative attention, just like noticing, like, hey, Jeremy, I noticed you're working really hard on that. That's great. But can we read through that section? Same thing, just see, hey, do we want to make any changes?
These two, right?
So I know we've talked about it. The point sheet that was new this year has been really successful. I know, Miss Woodward, you brought it up last week as an idea of, currently Jeremy checks out and spends those points at the end of the day. So he saves them up all day. And you had an idea for maybe doing that more frequently.
Yeah, I'd actually talked to Miss Dufresne after that last big outburst. We were just kind of debriefing a little bit and talking about maybe doing some of that a little earlier, not waiting the whole day. That was something I think that came up when you were debriefing with Jeremy in your office.
Yeah, we, as we've discussed already, really those big outbursts where we need to clear rooms and when the office staff gets walking to kind of respond to that more kind of significant and aggressive behavior have definitely improved since the beginning of the year. So that is a huge positive. We are still getting walkie calls, maybe not to the point where we're needing to clear the room, but they're needing additional support when those outbursts do occur. And what we've kind of noticed, and what Miss Woodward and I and Mr. Van Oss were chatting a little bit about, was that they seem to occur more in the middle of the day for whatever reason. We're not quite sure if it's the schedule. It might be when the math is time, is there. But also when I was chatting with Jeremy, he just kind of alluded to the fact that it's just kind of hard to wait that long. Sure. And so one of the things we were thinking about was, modifying that points sheet a little bit to kind of respond to that.
Okay. I think that's great. He's really loving bringing some of the items home from the school store. So that's been a fun conversation starter and a good way to learn about the positive things about his day. So thanks for that.
So we think like probably before lunch. Sound good?
I think so.
Okay. And
because
then still at the
we
end
do we go recess and then lunch. So I think if we had just that quick checkpoint before recess, that sends him into recess feeling pretty excited and good. He's got that break with recess and lunch before we come right back into some math work. I think that could build up some great momentum for him too.
Great. Okay. All right. Just note that. And then if we can flip to the last page, these are just what staff are doing when that non-compliance or the outburst starts. We can just try and keep it as small as possible, minimize the disruptions for him. Can we just read over that section, see if we want to make any adjustments? So overall, I'm feeling pretty good about, it's kind of like a continuum. You try and respond in the least, disruptive way possible, because I know it really bugs Jeremy when he feels like he's being called out in front of his peers. Yeah. So, I mean, in my classroom, same with you, Miss Woodward, like mostly nonverbal things, like just, getting closer to him, tapping his desk. He responds well to. Not all students do, but Jeremy really, I mean, that is a really good one. He responds well to it. Sometimes though, we have to, he keeps doing it and we have to pull him aside for a conversation. And again, major props to Jeremy, because not all students handle that well, but Jeremy knows he'll walk out into the hallway with you. He knows it's his chance to have a conversation. I think sometimes he still starts to pound his feet and raise his voice and is really agitated. but what I've noticed is when we're trying to like de-escalate that is trying to connect the dots for him. He handles that really well. Like, hey buddy, the sooner we can talk through this, the sooner we can get back in class with your friends. Like that kind of phrase.
Okay.
Not all kids respond to that type of phrase, but it really works for Jeremy.
Okay.
So I think if the team is okay, I'd like to propose we put that specifically in here so that, you know, if he moves to another school or the next grade, like his new teachers would have that.
Yeah, we definitely kind of talked through some things at home as well, and he's been talking about just not wanting his peers to notice, like my friend saw me. So I think that's been a huge thing for him.
I have been really intentional about those chats happening in the hall and not in the classroom. That has been really positive. He's more open versus when we're in the class, he's kind of, you know, he's just not as present because I think he's worried about that impression with his peers. So
yeah, you can see his eyes.
Yeah, so I think making sure to just to make it really clear that when we're at that point to pull him into, you know, a space away from peers, because it just works better.
Because
for
some
him.
teachers would try and like have that conversation at his desk or in the back of the classroom, but for him, like hallway needs to be hallway.
And I can just go like, and he'll he knows, and so it's just it's working pretty well.
Awesome. So I'll jot that down.
Great.
Anything else that we missed?
Not to my knowledge. No.
All right, well, let's move on.